the Oscars are tonight, which is good because a lot of great movies came out in 2022. Like of all the 21st century years for movies, 2022 is like on the top 3 for best years for movies of the 21st century so far. Yeah, a lot of great movies came out last year. And so I wanted to take this opportunity right before the Oscars to rank all the movies I saw in 2022 that came out in the same year. So, like, all the new movies. And granted, I haven't seen all of them. Like, there are a lot of popular movies that I didn't see from last year, like Tar, Bodies, 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 Women Talking, All Quiet on the Western Front. I didn't see the new Avatar movie. But so I just wanted to talk about the ones I have seen, rank them all, have a good time before the Oscars. So let's get into ranking them. So, as you saw, Maple Valley Christmas is at 47th and last place. Meaning, other than the fact that it's a terrible movie, that also means this video probably won't be in one part. It'll be way too long. So, what I'll do is parts 47 through, I don't know, 24, 23, 22 maybe. That'll be part 1. Part 2 will be the rest of them. And so yeah, that's what I plan to do for this video. But as for Maple Valley Christmas, it's a Hallmark movie. What else do I need to say? Sissy was also really not good, but the reason it's not last place is because unlike a Maple Valley Christmas, at least it was original and at least the kills were pretty good. Like that's the one thing I can hold it up to. But Sissy, it's it's about a girl who used to be bullied in elementary school, and then she eventually got away from this bully, but then she goes on like a girls trip with her old best friend, and then she runs into that bully again, and they're in a cabin now, and the old bully wants revenge. That's what the movie's about. Except this movie is like, what if Pearl was half as good as it was, and Bodies, Bodies, Bodies was half as good as it was, and then they got together, not really out of love, but they just sort of settled together, and then they had a baby, and that baby grew up having a really rough childhood because there was, like, a lot of, hate between its parents, Pearl and Bodies, 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 and so it grew up having a really rough childhood. It never really lived up to its full potential. It grew up just hearing everyone hate on it all its life. And then eventually it killed itself at age 27 after a long series of drug addiction, rehab, relapsing, more drug addiction, failed romances. I went into a lot there, but all that to say, Sissy is like 2 movies that are better than it, and it's not as good as either of them, or even half as good as either of them. It tries some interesting things, like it shows how it tries to give social commentary on how we've become so like desensitized by the dopamine rushes that we get from our phones that they're almost like the only comfort that we have, if that makes any sense. Like they show that in a really interesting way, but I don't care because it's a really bad movie. It was fun to pretend Morbius was a good movie. Hell, I even thought it was really funny when a bunch of people on the internet tricked Sony into wasting millions of dollars into re-releasing Morbius into theaters because they thought it developed some sort of cult following, and then they just let it flop again. Like, I thought that was hilarious. But I think we're past that point now, and we can all just admit this was a really bad movie. I already talked about Thor Love and Thunder in a previous video. You should go see it. It's that one. But if you didn't see that video yet, I hated Thor Love and Thunder. I thought it was a really bad movie, and yeah, it does not give me high hopes for Marvel. I think Netflix is really bad at political satire. Like, Don't Look Up was really bad. And then this, Space Force, it's like the bare minimum of political satire. Like, it doesn't actually make fun of any, like, interesting things about President Trump. It's just sort of, like, very, like, standard observation. Like, look at how much he's on Twitter. Isn't Space Force a dumb name? And then they pretty much did the same thing this year, except it's less relevant because President Trump isn't president anymore. It's now President Biden. And they actually went less on the political humor, which usually I would say is a good thing, except that this is trying to be like political satire. And so it went from a show with very like surface level, not interesting political satire to a political satire without any political satire. I don't know. I guess this was funny, but this was season 2 of Space Force was definitely a step down from season 1. Like season 1, at least it was funny sometimes, not the political jokes, but like, sending monkeys into space. They did that sort of thing. It was fun. I think the best thing I can say about season 2 is they stopped with the really crappy political jokes that they had in season 1. And then, by the way, I'm going to do this throughout the video. Whenever I do this means I'm going to talk spoilers about a movie or a show. So cover your ears if you don't want Space Force Season 2 spoiled. So, also, this show got canceled, and at first I was like, oh man, that's too bad. Because this show, it ends on a cliffhanger. It shows like, it turns out there's a giant comet heading towards Earth, and it's going to kill everyone. And so, the only way they can get it to, not crash into Earth is all of Space Force works together. And then from then on, I predicted, like, oh, season 3 is just going to be Don't Look Up. And then it got canceled. So that was a bit weird. Oh, and by the way, just in case you were covering your ears, you didn't miss much. Everyone dies and it was all just a dream. Take that, liberals. Oh, sorry. I'm kidding. But for the people who didn't want it spoiled, they're gonna... I don't know. I thought it would be funny. I think that if Marvel just let Sam Raimi roll and make his own movie, this would be so much better. But Multiverse of Madness is like about half of Sam Raimi's movie, and the other half is like Marvel trying to squeeze everything in there. They're like, oh, by the way, we need this connection, we need all these, we need these to happen, and we need it to be kid-friendly. But, like, you're asking the guy who did The Evil Dead and Drag Me to Hell to make a kid movie. Sam Raimi has directed PG-13 movies before, but even then, you could tell, like, he was really pushing the limits. Like, watch Drag Me to Hell. That movie is horrifying. Like, I don't even think 13-year-olds should be watching that movie. That movie's scary. But, like, Sam Raimi pushes the limits with PG-13 movies. And so this movie, because Marvel tried to, like, really, like, put a chain on the original movie, I think the movie definitely gets held back from what it could have been. Like, I think if they just let Sam Raimi deal with this could have been, like, Spider-Man level, which is another Raimi movie that, by the way, is brutal. Like, you watch the fight between Willem Dafoe and Tobey Maguire in the final act of Spider-Man. It is brutal, dude. And you can there's a part in this movie where a guy gets his, like, head blown in. And, like, you can tell, that's Raimi trying to put a bit in there. I wish the rest of the movie were like that scene. I just wish this could be a Raimi movie. I like the soundtrack to Spirited. I think I have a few songs from this movie on my playlist. The choreography was good. The cinematography, it's just, it's not really the best movie. Like, it was fun, and I never thought about it again. But the thing that makes me mad about this movie is Regal was like, hey, come, and we'll show you a mystery movie for $5. And I was so convinced that this would be The Fabelmans. Like, I was so excited. I was so excited. I was like, I'm gonna see The Fabelmans. Let's go, I'm gonna see The Fabelmans. I really wanted to see The Fabelmans. And that was Spirited, and I was just disappointed for the entire movie. And when I saw it, all I remember thinking about was, like, how weird it was that Ryan Reynolds could have, like, a full-on beard in this movie. In some shots, he'll have a full beard, and in others, he'll be, like, clean-shaven. Watch that movie and tell me you don't notice that at least once. Don't ask why I was staring at his mouth so much. I noticed the beard because I was definitely staring at his lips a bit. I like how season 4 of this show really dealt with, like, mental health and stuff. I thought that was a really interesting take on Stranger Things. But how do I put this? With the exception of, like, 3 actors, everyone on this show is old enough to drink. And they're still trying to portray, like, these 21-year-olds as teenagers. Like, it's not as bad as Matchstick Men, where they're like, this 34-year-old woman is secretly 14. But like, this makes this just seems weird at this point. Like, all these kids are really seedy looking now, except Dustin. He looks about the same. But like, and then I don't like how this show ended on a cliffhanger. Like, they're gonna bring back like, they are bringing back season 5. They should have ended this like at season 3. These kids look way too old, man. I'm sorry, but and also, this song brought back Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush, and I hate that song. I cannot stand it. And, I I've heard that song like 4 times at the gym already, and it makes me want to be a worse person every time I hear that song. It really is not. I do not like that song. I'm sorry. That's subjective, and that really isn't a valid criticism, but to me it bothers me. I mentioned my summer movie theater video earlier, so I talked about this movie there too. But I was one of the people who dressed up for Minions. I had a fun time. It was a good movie. The only reason it's not higher is because I really, I like other movies. I really, it's not a masterpiece, but Minions Rise of Gru is a fun movie. About 2/3 of Apollo 10 and a half is just a singular flashback montage. The whole movie is about this kid growing up around the time the space race was happening. And so he's 10 and a half years old, and he's just remembering like the months leading up to the Apollo 11 moon landing. And I think it's a fun movie. It's a really nice, like, sweet, nostalgic sort of movie. Richard Linklater definitely does great at portraying different decades with a sort of nostalgia to it, like he did with Dazed and Confused. But I would rather watch Dazed and Confused than this, because as much as I like this movie doesn't really have much of a story. It's more of just like telling you the events of what was happening at the time from the perspective of a little boy growing up around that sort of thing. So, it's a fun movie. It's a good animated movie. Richard Linklater is still a great director. I don't know. This definitely, I don't know, it just felt a bit slow. It's not my favorite.
Why are they moving that poor man's mouth? What are those women doing to that cow?
But the animation was really good. I think that with how bad Marvel is doing, the only like consistently great superhero franchise within the Marvel Cinematic Universe is the Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, they're always really funny. Even when you give them like such bad production as this, they still manage to pull off a pretty entertaining holiday special. Weird calls itself the biopic of Weird Al Yankovic, but realistically, it's just a parody of any other music biopic, and it's so funny because of that. This movie does not take itself seriously at all. You can tell that very early on, and because of that, this is a really funny movie, because it makes fun of the music biopic genre with movies like Rocket Man and Bohemian Rhapsody by making a parody movie of those movies. And that's exactly what you kind of have to expect from a movie about Weird Al. And it's great because of that. I think the performance by Daniel Radcliffe as Weird Al Yankovic is also really good. Rainn Wilson is good as Dr. Demento. I think Evan Rachel Wood plays Madonna. This is a really funny movie. I would highly recommend it. It is absolutely hilarious. It is a great time. this is another Marvel holiday special, but I actually really liked Werewolf by Night. This one's for Halloween, and it tries its hardest to like recreate older movies, and I think it does really good at like emulating the style of the Wolfman or Dracula. It does really good. Even like switching up the Marvel logo to look more like old fashioned. I thought that was really cool. I think Michael Giacchino did really good on his first tryout as a director. You know, Michael Giacchino, he made like a lot. He made almost every movie score you can think of, and I think he made a great movie here. My only complaints here are there's a monster in here that is supposed to be practical, but it really looks CG, and it doesn't look like as believable in an environment that's trying to emulate like old 1940s horror. And my other problem, this is more of a nitpick. I wish this movie were longer. Like I would love to see Werewolf by Night as like a feature length Marvel movie because this was really good. So now we're getting into movies I like. It just now comes down to a matter of personal preference. And for Glass Onion, I like Glass Onion. I think it's a fun movie. I think it's really inventive. I think it's creative. It's just, I definitely like Knives Out better. Like, this is a good movie, but Knives Out is, I love Knives Out. I don't think this can beat it so easily. You know, a lot of people really didn't like this movie. I had a fun time with it. I really like Christian Bale's character in here. I think it's really funny, really entertaining. I don't know. It's obviously not the best movie, and I agree with a lot of the criticisms, but it's just a fun movie that in the future I can see myself probably getting at Goodwill for like $5 and then, you know, watching it over and over again, obsessively. I don't think I have much to say about this movie actually, other than it's a wholesome, sweet, fun movie that I had a good time watching, and it's about this like sweet old lady who who deserves better, and I like it because of that. It's a fun movie. I would highly recommend watching Miss Harris Goes to Paris just because of how sweet it is. It has a Paddington 2 sort of vibe to it. See How They Run is a really funny movie. I was laughing my butt off during this movie. It's a really funny movie, and it's sort of like if Wes Anderson directed a murder mystery that was less Wes Anderson than The Grand Budapest Hotel, but like more Wes Anderson than Bottle Rocket. That's what I'll say. And also, off topic, but this is kind of a weird story. So I had no plans on seeing this movie. I sort of just went impulsively because I heard Wes Anderson. It was like a Wes Anderson sort of movie. So I was like, yeah, I'll see it. And then I went to go see it. I buy my ticket, get my food, all that stuff. And then I walk into the theater, and the first thing I see is little kids, cover your ears for a sec. I see a woman dry humping a scarecrow. And I was like, oh, this is a really weird preview. Cause yeah, it was not a preview. And it definitely didn't fit in with the fun, lighthearted murder mystery tone of See How They Run. I didn't even find out I accidentally went to go see Pearl until like after I got out of the theater and asked one of my friends, what the hell did I just watch? A lot of people would put this way higher on their list than I did, but I like this movie, but I feel it was just a bit slow paced at times. I still think it's a good movie, but yeah, I don't know, just the pacing didn't really work for me. Maybe other people feel differently, but the main reason I really like this movie is my favorite sort of character are these sweet, wholesome, dumb side characters who are off doing their own separate thing. And what this movie does is it takes that side character and makes him the main character. And so Colin Farrell plays, the sweet, dumb, lovable side character who has his own thing going on with his friends. And then they make him the main character. And it's really funny. I really like this movie because of that. All I've got to say about this is by far the best iteration of Pinocchio. The stop motion animation looks incredible. And originally, I thought I would post this before the Oscars, but now that I'm recording it, I probably think I'll post it like the day after, because I have some work to do still. So let me know in the comments later if I'm correct about this, but I'm willing to bet this will win Best Animated Feature at the Oscars this year. That's my bet. I already did a review on this, so if you want to know my thoughts on that, you should go see it because I think that's one of my better reviews. But I rated this low for the same reason I rated Mad God low. I think this is a great horror movie, but I'm never watching this again. This was so disturbing and messed up. The only difference between this and Mad God, though, is that I actually like Barbarian. I really like this movie. I thought it was really good. I love Daniel Kaluuya in this movie. I just think Nope is a really great movie. You know, full disclosure, I am not a fan of socialism, and this movie very clearly is a socialist movie. Like, it admits to it. It's not trying to hide it. It's not subtle either. That being said, I could listen to Woody Harrelson's character in this movie talk about socialism for hours. Because, you know, I've talked with socialists before, and usually what I hear is, you're an idiot! You're gonna get us all killed! You hate poor people! That sort of thing, you know. It's very nice to hear. I do hate poor people. That's a joke. That's a joke. Do not take that out of context. But, so yeah, it's Woody Harrelson in here, though. The way he talks about socialism is so sweet and wholesome because he always says it like, you're not a bad person. I don't think you guys are bad people. He's drunk while he's saying this, too. I don't think you guys are bad people. No. I just think you guys can share your wealth a bit. And it's so sweet the way he discusses. I wish more discussions of economic disagreements happen like that. It's so sweet. And apart from that, this movie, apart from the politics, is really good. Like, it's really good. I really like this movie. I don't think it's going to win any Oscars, but I still think it's really fun, really great. It's really entertaining. I actually would highly recommend this movie. This is like 1984 kind of, where, yeah, it's socialist. It's still really enjoyable. It's still really well crafted. Alright, we're gonna have to go a bit anticlimactic for the end of this video, but I'm not gonna tell you the title of this movie, because it's a political documentary, and, you know, I don't want to get into the specifics of it and open up that whole can of worms, so I won't discuss any specifics of this movie, but what I will say is this. I think this political documentary does very good at weaving together a series of questions, interviews, archival footage, and commentary from the documentarian to discuss the theme of the documentary. Alright, that's gonna wrap it up for this part. I originally thought I would upload this before the Oscars. Now I'm not so sure. I think if you're watching this after the Oscars, you know how slow my editing process is now. So yeah, sorry, but I'll get part 2 of this out very soon. Before you head out, why don't you tell me what your favorite movie of 2022 was? I'll tell you in the next video when we get to first place. In the meantime, though, after you do that, you can head on out. Stay safe and watch good movies. Bye!